December 8th. I'll call this meeting of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Erie to order. We'll rise and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up, public comment and the consent agenda. Are there any citizens to be heard? Does not appear so. And then the approval of the consent agenda. So in our board packets are the agenda and minutes from the November 10th meeting. Are there any comments on the agenda or on the minutes from the last meeting? I'll wait for Chuck to mosey on up. It's fine, I'm normally the late one. So it actually took me longer to get from 38th to 12th than it did to get from 12th to City Hall.
Try coming from 6N north.
Any comments on the minutes, Joe?
No.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? All right. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up is the finance report.
Thank you. So in your packet, the first page you have is the balance sheet. It shows the total of our bank accounts is just under $6 million. So that is with all of the raised ARPA and LHRD checking and savings accounts. Our total assets are $10,994,653.87. That includes the $5 million loan that we have out to Ironworks Square for the Erie County Redevelopment Authority. Then the next page in your packet is the profit and loss, showing from January through November total income of $3.5 million. And on page 5 of 5, it shows a total net income of $7,220.90. And then the page after that, actually the 3 pages after that, is your list of checks with the details in the memo/description field for everything that was dispersed in November. And then I have the budget versus actuals for 2025 at the end of that.
Are there any questions for April?
I'm going to have a bunch of questions. On the budget versus actual, we're showing an actual interest of 62, budget 251.
Yeah, so
That's
when
pretty
we
large.
created the budget, we had lumped it together, including that $200,000 interest payment that was coming back from Ironworks Square loan. So the $200,000 that we received in April from them, plus the $62,000+ that we've received for just having our the majority of our ARPA funds in an interest-bearing savings account combined, is pretty close to what we had budgeted for the $251,000 total.
Okay. Thank you.
I see 2 payments for the new production program. Was this distributing their entire award for Build CDC and our West Bayfront? This is in the check detail?
That was the remainder of the funds for that
Okay.
program. Yep.
Will we be, and I think this is more of a question for Aaron, what type of documentation will we see upon completion of the projects?
So when the projects are completed, they currently hold a mortgage for that amount on the property, and there's the note with, it matures at the end of 2026. The board won't really see anything other than probably a memo from me stating that the project was completed. However, being that they are both substantial projects, and given the organizations, I would assume they'll probably have some kind of ribbon cutting for both of those projects. So I'll inform the board when that happens.
Okay,
So-
I wasn't sure if we had like any like formal reporting that would go to the redevelopment authority, or what sort of like closeout there would be after construction's wrapped up.
So the closeout procedures are final pictures. We're there, we have to make sure we're going to double check all the permits were pulled, they followed all the city code ordinances.
Okay.
And then satisfy the mortgage. So
Okay.
is our process for those.
Any other questions? All right. Next up is report of the executive director. Start off with the solicitor's report.
Good afternoon, Board. Chief Summers, it's nice to be here again. Happy holidays. You'll see from my report that we're again narrowing things down as we continue to move away and get things taken care of. 207 West 3rd Street's going to come off the memorandum that has been rehabilitated deed back with all the appropriate documentation to convey all ownership fully back into the owner. So everything is done, lock, stock, and barrel. Again, it's important for the board to know when these contractors, rehabilitators work with us, we are successful.
We are, thank you, we are able to work with these people to get these properties taken care of, have all the rehabilitation done, completed, pass all of the inspections, and conveyed back. Item number 2 is still in process. That is going to bounce back and forth quite a bit. There is just a lot going on behind the scenes that does not necessarily impact or change our position or our standing, so that is very good. There are 2 subdivisions that are in process, and I want to thank Aaron again for helping us jumpstart that process again. The property at 9th and Cherry, and then subdivision of the property on, I can never remember the name of the street. Locust Street, thank you again. So those are tracking together. So we should be in good shape when all that takes place. We have signed sales agreements with 5 properties and are working through just some ancillary issues, making sure that everything is cleaned up, back taxes and any utilities and issues like that. So we're clearing those up as we move them forward to closing. So I'll keep the board apprised of those, and hopefully you'll see them coming off. Again, doing what we're here to do is to get these properties back onto the tax rolls. So with that, thank you. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them.
Just out of curiosity, for the 324 East 22nd, so that obviously, it's ours, it's just going back and forth between some things.
It is.
Can the authority technically do whatever it wants to that property? Like, we own it free and clear?
We do. There is the appeal is with regard to the valuation of it, but we do own it, we do control it. I'm hesitant
Yeah, maybe not whatever,
to be
but
overly
like,
proactive, but
we could, in theory, sell it, market it to an adjacent property owner or something like that.
technically we could do that, yes. It's what is at issue is the valuation of it.
Okay. And is the authority stance typically to wait until everything is settled? Okay.
Yeah, we really have. We really do.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was just going to note, I mean, this used to be a 2.5-page
Yes.
report, so I mean, that's, You're working yourself out of a job, Mr.
I know,
Sullivan.
and yes, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited that it's only this much, but then you're right. I'm thinking, geez, Gene, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Slow
I
down.
know.
No, just kidding.
You want to show them the land bank one?
Yeah, oh, gosh, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah,
I mean, this,
thank you.
seriously, this was a 2.5-page report.
Yeah.
a
Oh,
couple
when I
years
started,
ago,
yeah.
as you
It was- I
remember,
think it was
yeah.
stapled when I started. so-
Yeah, so we're making some great progress, team. Thank you.
And again, it really is a testament to Aaron and his team. It's pretty spectacular. We have chartered uncharted waters
Yeah.
and again, we get contacted from around the state saying, hey, how are you guys
Do
doing?
this.
So,
Well, and you do read about other communities across the state who are, backlogs and citizen frustration and so on. So congratulations to this team who's cut through that and, blazed a trail.
It's not a resolution item. Do we need to approve the finance report?
You have to accept it once a quarter by bylaws.
Okay. Have we?
You
done-
accepted
okay.
the November report, so.
Excellent. Thanks, Andy. Yeah.
Board, I'm going to ask to be excused. I have a meeting that I have to attend to at 4 o'clock. I would stay for as long as needed, or if I was excused, that would, whatever your preference is, but I do have to be at that meeting at 4.
I think from the board's perspective, you are excused.
Yeah, we already talked, so we're good.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Up next, general updates and information.
All right, so I'd sent a few emails out since the last board meeting, so there's some, all of that information there for the board. On the land bank side, the land bank did approve the budget at their November meeting. I did provide that to the board. Just as far as for board's information, the judicial tax sale has been pushed back to the second week of January. So all of that activity is now on hold until after the new year. Regarding Homes Within Reach that April and I attended last week, I had the privilege and have the privilege to serve on the Pennsylvania Land Bank Network Steering Committee, one of 6 members who are working to forge a statewide coalition and revitalize what was the Pennsylvania Land Bank Network, which the Housing Alliance kind of fostered and stewarded for a long time. But we've been successful in securing a Hillman Foundation grant out of Pittsburgh in collaboration with the Tricog Land Bank. And then we were awarded a couple weeks ago, after the state budget was passed, an NMAP grant to help assist with funding our 2 consultants who help us with all of the legislative and other process improvement parts of the PA Land Bank Network. So we're excited about that. So we did a session at Homes Within Reach as the Pennsylvania Land Bank for our strategic plan as far as what other land bank individuals across the state are looking for, from experienced land banks down to people in the room. I think we had 17 individuals from organizations across the state that were interested in starting a land bank or were in the preliminary stages of creating a land bank. So that was exciting to see them in the room. So that was a good session. And then I had the opportunity to present on a session of tools to mitigate blight. And so I presented on our process of eminent domain under the urban redevelopment law and use of blighted property review committee. Always well attended and well received. So I have a couple meetings scheduled with the city of Altoona and the other city escapes me that are just starting to ramp up a blighted property review committee and work on providing them some documents and stuff and best practices so they don't have to go through what we've already vetted out. So in all, it was a good session or a good conference. I think, as with most of them, if you could split yourself 4 different ways to attend all the sessions you wanted to, you probably still would be shorthanded. But that's about all my updates, and I know we have a decent amount of conversation in the agenda, so I'll leave it at that.
All right. Any questions for Aaron? All right. Moving on to unfinished business, the housing rehab report. I didn't see you duck down there. I'm like, oh, where'd you go?
I was expecting Aaron to go longer, so I wasn't ready yet. All right, guys. So just to explain what the chart is on the front page, I just wanted you guys to kind of get a look at what we did in 2025 and also just where those total grants stand. So those first two columns, that's number of units and dollars for 2025 specific. Those right two columns, that's what looking at those grants in total. So that's how many units have been completed so far under that grant and how much money has been spent so far total through them. Hopefully that clarifies what all that is. I'll keep my part pretty short too, because I know we've got lots to talk about, but let me see if there's anything. There's nothing really huge on pressing on my part to share. We're still doing satellite offices at the center. Anna and I do have an upcoming meeting with the health department. They reached out to us about our partnership and planning activities for 2026, so that's exciting. We've got a meeting with them next week. We just hosted our last class for lead training for the year. It was an RRP class. It was very well attended. And we're getting ready to look at potential dates for training for the new year. And I've got 2 new contractors that are looking to work with us and actually have scheduled to take their supervisor class on their own. So they are interested in bidding on lead jobs. So that was new as of this morning. I didn't even have time to put that in my report. Any other questions for me? I've got my forecast done for 26. It's ambitious, but I think that we can do it.
Sorry, say that one more time.
I said my planning for 2026 projects is ambitious, and I think that we can do it.
Third bullet under miscellaneous is county home funding. So what 2 projects are we putting forth?
So that one's tricky right now. The final agreement on that has been pushed back. We know it's still happening, but they're working on revising some more things. It's one of those like Whole Home was. It's a shared pot with the Corey Redevelopment Authority, and home projects can go up to $70,000, and they have some different rules to them and whatnot. So they had asked us in the Corey Redevelopment Authority back over the summer to put forth, some projects from existing applicants that we had that we thought would be good candidates. I actually sent them 4. So I've got 4 identified that I think would be good candidates. I don't know if any or all of them will get approved yet. That's up to the county to determine. But they're just regular residential projects from our existing pool of applicants. It wasn't, They didn't want to advertise for new applications.
Any other questions on the rehab report? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next, the race EDC loan modification. I'm not sure if we have too much to talk about this item. But
Yeah, no, I know we're scheduled for Wednesday to discuss. April and I certainly have our thoughts about the proposal that was presented from them, but we look forward to the conversation on Wednesday so that we can get a response back to them. So.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, so probably more to come on this one in January. All right. And 2 development proposals in front of us.
All right.
The fun stuff.
Okay, so Cynthia printed out, I think, 2 copies of the proposal for you guys to share. I didn't want to waste too much paper. I know you guys had seen it. So the 2 lots in question are 26 East 26th Street and 2514-16 French Street. They are 2 parcels that were acquired under the ARPA Blight Mitigation Program through eminent domain. They were declared blighted. No major structures on the properties. We have not demolished any structures. However, they were littered with cars and debris and just a bunch of nuisance, and a nuisance for a long time of essentially a property owner who had abandoned the properties and just kind of was using them. So we spent, we were challenged in court on this one. I think we took it back in late 2022. We were about in court for a year, so then we cleaned the property up and we finally gotten to the point to list the properties. We kind of waited until after our statute of limitations on just compensation had expired to list the properties, as we do with many of them, so that it prohibits anybody from coming back and challenging that just compensation. So as I had said in my email, we're about $58,000 in between just compensation and all of the cleaning costs that we've incurred on the property. We did reach out to the side lot owners, but I did decide to list it with our realtor in general, just to see what the general reach would be, not knowing that either Country Fair or Cornerstone Automotive would be interested in it. I know as I said in my email earlier, Gary from Cornerstone Automotive had said that he was interested, however, he did not want to pay more than a determined amount for those properties. So we put it out with the realtor and received the proposal that's in front of you from Redevelopment Refining. So I guess I will stop there. Their proposal is for $90,000, and so I guess I just have some more discussion with the board as far as I talked to Gene and how we want to structure a development proposal on this, so.
So Agresti is our realtor?
Agresti is the Redevelopment Authority's realtor.
Okay. Is that new, or did I miss, was I sleeping somewhere?
The board approved it earlier in the year.
All
The
right.
month escapes me at the moment.
It was much earlier in the year, but yeah.
Yeah.
I do
All
remember.
right. And what kind of rent are we getting from the people who are parking there?
From Consul, who parks there on a daily basis, they maintain the lot as far as making sure they mow the grass to a certain extent, and then they're just really stewarding it to make sure that it looks and appears occupied to the point that we don't have people dumping on it every day. So that was really an offset shared with Brian from Consul.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was going to be a revenue loss to consider because of lack of rent or,
No.
so I'm always thinking about revenue.
If we were renting it, it would be my son would have to do some little bit more improvement to it. So they're just they were using it before we cleaned it up, and we just kind of cleaned it up and secured it.
Did we erect these cement blocks that are on French Street?
We did.
We did.
We did. We put those in to prevent
Oh, sure.
the dumping that had occurred at the property.
So, and how much money do we have into it?
We have about $58,000 into it. Yeah,
$58,000.
between just compensation, legal fees,
All right.
and the cost to clean and remove all the items on the lot.
All right.
So Country Fair's proposal is for the construction of a parking lot to connect their current store at 26th and State with French Street access. So that is what their proposal is to install lighting, pavement, and essentially access to their store from French Street to, I guess, ease access for customers coming up French Street.
What was the prior use of the site, like, I guess, back before, it was, well before it was a parking lot?
It was a bar.
It was a bar, okay.
Yes. Yeah, the bar sat off of 26th Street. It was the Moonlight Lounge. Essentially, that little
okay.
building that's still there was a walk-in cooler and part of the kitchen to the original structure. So the parcel definitely has some development issues as far as, and not being an engineer, the Mill Creek Tube goes essentially directly under the west side of that property. So development of a structure that would have to be up to a structural engineer to determine what would have to happen there if they wanted to build a property or a structure on that at some time down the road.
And they
So-
will make that inspection.
Yeah, I mean, that's, at this point, Country Fair is looking to buy it to put it into a parking lot. You know, it's my recommendation to the board is to waive the escrow requirement of $10,000. We're going to remove the right of reverter from it and enter into the enforcement mortgage with the development of the monthly development fee, and then really satisfy all that once they complete the parking lot. And my only reason for recommendation of that is that United Refining owns other parcels across the city of Erie that have been left in a state of just vacant lots. They maintain them, however, I would essentially really prefer to see the parking lot be completed as opposed to some of the other parcels that are still mafia blocked off and vacant parcels across the city of Erie.
Something I'm concerned about with the parking proposal, essentially connecting French to the current Country Fair lot, is people cutting through and just basically seeing that a red light's ahead. They want to turn, was that right onto 26th and just, cut on through. I definitely know that happens with other parcels in the city of Erie. So, I mean, is there anything that we could kind of either encourage or require as part of the development agreement, ways to ensure that, or minimize the risk that people will use it as a cut-through opportunity?
I'm sure we can add something into the agreement. I know, I mean, this will have to go in front of city zoning and planning for their approvals. And that is essentially the reason we put the Mafia blocks on the lot, was that the auto lot, he said that that's what was happening. People were essentially cutting across that lot to bypass the intersection. So the Mafia blocks have cured that, but, you know, opening it back up would increase that. So we can see about, we can propose anything to them at this point. I have an email from their attorney essentially asking for the right of reverter to be waived. They asked about the enforcement mortgage and the escrow. So, which, like I said, I recommend waiving of the escrow, but not the enforcement mortgage.
And what's the
Because-
right of reverter?
Right of reverter was what we used in our old development agreements, and it's still listed in one part of the development agreement, and Gene and I talked that we have to review that and take that out, but it was our old means of having teeth in a development proposal to allow us to act on a right of reverter and take a property back. However, in Gene's opinion, it's far easier for us to have an enforcement mortgage and foreclose on the property as opposed to go down the right of reverter route. So that's why we changed the language early this year to include the enforcement mortgage.
Got it. And then, I had another question that I just lost it. Oh yeah, did Agresti come back with any other proposals, or was Country, okay,
This was the only proposal, and it's been on the market, I believe, about 60 days.
okay.
And I know you were concerned about the neighbors. I know that the largest neighbor is the school district. And, I don't know if they have a comment or not, or.
Yeah, it's backs up on Enterprise Rental Cars to the north. You have 3 residential rental units to the west, and then Country Fair and the car lot, or it's bordering parcels. And then there's another vacant parcel, kitty corner on French Street, so.
Yeah, I know this is just, it's a, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's an ugly corridor between, you know, this part of, that part of State, part of French, this part of 26, and just, you know, curious if there's any, like, I don't know, neighborhood input, because there's not a whole lot of immediate residential neighbors, but
Yeah.
something to, you know, make this stretch a little prettier than asphalt.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, after I got the emails this morning, you know, in thinking about that, I'm not quite sure if that is, you know, certainly we can play a role in that, but I think that comes down the road as far as zoning and planning commission.
Sure.
And having them play a bigger role in that improvement. You know, certainly, we unlocked the property from its previous owner and now have, you know, had the ability to move it forward for development. So I think that's kind of our role in the process, was taking something that the individual would not reach out or respond to. And so we've acquired it, and now we can move it into somebody that hopefully down the road, you know, the buyer wants to build a new store and improve the entire corridor and make it a better intersection. I agree with you. It's kind of a very dismal few blocks, so.
All right, yeah, I think that'd be helpful. And then, can we definitely put in something about lighting in the development agreement?
Lighting?
Lighting.
They do have lighting in their proposal.
Okay,
Yep, they do have the installation of street or parking lighting. Yeah, wiring and connection of parking lot lights, paving, site clearing, asphalt excavation, concrete footings. Yeah, I mean, I think they have a little bit of work to do on their site plan, so I think that'll come into play, so.
okay.
Yeah, and with respect to lighting, an unintended consequence might be too much light for the residential units who are on French Street. I mean, that's, when you're across the street from a commercial.
Right, like I'd say like we want there to be enough lighting just to deter like unwanted activity.
But if you live in.
yes, nothing to be, you know, cause light pollution to our neighbors. Yeah.
Correct, I mean, that's the sensitivity when you have a commercial corridor across the street from a residential situation. We would be mindful of the people who are living there.
And And when would we be looking to make a decision on disposition?
I can have it in front of the board again in January, or we can, if we schedule a special meeting for the budget session, certainly I can get this back to the Realtor and the attorney tomorrow and hopefully have something sorted out here. They're ready to sign, essentially.
Sure.
It's the end of the year. I'm sure they want to close as quickly as possible, so.
Sure.
Do you have any other comments or concerns that you'd want to wait until the January meeting?
Well, I think it said on here their offer is good for 60 days, and that was dated November 24th.
Okay.
So if we can do it before the January meeting, I think that's probably better.
Okay. And remind me, the sale price or the purchase price is $90,000?
$90,000.
90.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to hear if Jeremy has any other comments or concerns, but I think I'd be fine moving this to the special board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and like you had said, we don't get a lot of these frequently, so it's
Right.
good to, we spend, kind of focus in and really understand what, I think this would be very favorable. It's just that maybe some fine tuning and asking the developer to put some parameters around it, I think is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it's not a great site right now,
Right.
No, it's come a long way in our 3.5 years of ownership, but it still has some room to grow, so.
Any other questions, comments, concerns for Aaron? All right. Next up, the operating budget.
All right. All right, where do we want to start? So I know Mr. Scalise had sent an email earlier today or yesterday afternoon with some questions. And so the one in the top part of it, and I really wanted to kind of touch on that before we dig into the budget, was really in reference to going back to the 2023 budget, which I didn't provide to everybody. But so when I took over in 2020, this is what our annual proposed budget to the board looked like. And if you go back and April and I asked her how I can find some things this morning. She showed me where in the S drive. But really, when you look at what our 2023 proposed budget was versus now, it's really a testament to the work that April and everyone in finance has done to clean up our QuickBooks and make the process work a whole lot smoother. We were essentially approving an operating budget that was administrative based. There was no other operational expenses to the budget that the board was being put forth before we started working at and cleaning up the QuickBooks. So, really that's where I wanted to start today was really just saying, where we've come from and to where we continue to improve our finances and track them a whole lot better. I know April can say when she started, I said, I want to know how much we're spending each year in paper. And I think we're finally at a point where we can really drill down on how much every single aspect of the authority's operations are costing us. But then also to the point is, I provided the board the land bank budget. And so, to keep in mind that the redevelopment authority operation budget, the only part of that budget from the land bank that touches is the administrative burden and the salaries. So every other part of that $760,000 land bank budget, only $170,000 of that comes over to the redevelopment authority budget. The rest of that is an additional $500,000 that the redevelopment authority carries an entire set of books for the operations of another authority in itself. So that, just so when the board's looking at the budget, there is a lot of other expenses that are covered by the land bank that aren't actually physically structured into our 2026 race operating budget. All right, so now on to the operating budget, unless you guys got questions.
Not yet.
We go through? All right. So So we'll start with page 1, which is the fund and grant balances. And so essentially, these are every grant that we have under contract as of November 24th, 2025. So if there's a grant contract, this is the remaining funds associated with those grants. And I won't go through all of them individually, other than to say, certainly to the one question that was posed, the dates on a lot of these grants. And so when you look at anything that's Erie County, those contracts have expiration dates, but we extend those essentially on a yearly basis to facilitate that we have a contract with them to expend those funds to the point till they're all gone. There is no sunset date on those. The county wants us to expend those, and we work diligently with Holly and her team to get those funds out on the street as quickly as possible. But anybody who's ever done housing rehab also understands the fact that we don't just go off the street and pick clients. We have to sort through all the different issues with getting them approved and processing their income and then moving them into housing rehab side of it. So the ones we really have to look at, certainly to the other point was the ARPA funds. So you have Erie County Whole Home Repair. That fund expires at the end of 2026. All of our ARPA blight mitigation, healthy homes, historic preservation, East Bayfront Greenway Trail, and the administrative funds all essentially have an expiration date of 2026. And I say that because the last tranche of funds that we received from the city was revenue replacement, which has been waived of the requirement for the December 2026 date. So there's a certain aspect of that funding that is essentially allowed and eligible for us to continue using past 2026. We don't want to do that, and so if you really cross over the two lists between the fund and grant balance versus the revenue side of our budget, there is some fat left on the bone, in other words, on that there's some left over. But my hope and my challenge is to expend as much of that as possible in 2026, because we want to get these projects wrapped up that are on our plate, and so we can move on to other things. The Healthy Homes, or the Lead Hazard Control 2024 grant, goes until April of 2029. The FAIR grants are 18 months. We signed the contracts about a month ago, so those will go into 2027. CDBG will expire in June of 2026, and that City of Erie EPA Thriving Communities grant, we don't have a contract on that yet, so there is no known expiration date, and that's why it's pending, and that's why you don't see that one on the second page under revenue for the authority for 2026.
So I have a question, just global question, is of this $11 million fund balance, most of it's program delivery and some of it's administration, right? Do we have any inkling of what that looks like? In other words, we don't have $11 million to operate the authority.
Yeah.
Much of that has to go to contractors and so on. So that's
right.
Without that information, I'm struggling because I'm looking ahead, because.
As we all do.
Yeah.
Essentially to think that, we're not looking and trying to forecast out. Being that the authority, and I say it all the time, we're 99% our grant funded.
Mm-hmm.
There's that fine, when you look at this budget, essentially $267,050 is not grant funded. So, it's probably far more than 99%. So, but when you look at any of the Erie County programs on that front page, we have factored in a delivery cost for those programs. So we get, dependent upon the contract term, and it's varied over the years. So certainly Act 1, Phase 1 has a lower delivery because that contract was originally signed approximately 3 years ago. And so every year when we sign a new contract, we update our delivery matrix and increase that delivery cost. So it ranges anywhere from about $2,500 up to, I think the home one is now $3,200. Okay, over 5. So we've continued, as we sign new contracts and the years go on, to continue to reevaluate that. So for every project that we complete, we get that delivery cost. So it's a sliding scale, and to Mr. Scalise's point, it's really even hard for us. So we, certainly working with Holly in April as we put the budget together, we have to forecast out what our average cost is under those program expenses. And so then look at our total fund balance remaining, do some backwards math, and try to figure out how many units we're going to be able to complete and how much admin we're going to pull. So there's a lot of that goes into that forecasting of the rehab side of our budget and then the administrative side and how much we can put into that. ARPA Blight, we factored in a 15% administrative burden on that program. The only one, the caveat to that is East Bayfront Greenway Trail is its separate budget because that came from the city individually post the original award of ARPA funds, so that has an entire budget with administrative, office supplies, and other costs to it. The FAIR program works kind of the same way as the county programs. We have a 5% administrative cap on that program, but then we also factor in a per project delivery fee on that. On the Healthy Homes, we get $3,000 for project delivery. On the accessory structure, I believe we factored in a $500 per project delivery there. Now, the HUD, Lead Hazard Control, and Healthy Homes grant, it's 10%. It's capped at a 10% admin from HUD. However, that does not factor into the direct cost associated with that. So any direct personnel, individuals within the authority who work directly on a project receiving funds, it exceeds that. That is pulled as a direct cost and pulled at a different level. So certainly we have the 10% cap on that 4.7 million is more for April, Corey, myself, Anna, if she's doing outreach, those individuals who aren't specifically doing activities focused on directly working on a project. So, when we cut checks and stuff like that, even though it's for a project, it's not directly benefiting the project. Therefore, it falls as administrative. City of Erie CDBG, that $96,000 is direct project cost. There is no admin in there. City CDBG is hard to pull admin, given that it is leveraged against the lead hazard control program. It's just easier for us to factor that the lead hazard control program is paying our administrative cost for that project, and we're just leveraging and matching the CDBG funds with the lead hazard control program as required for the grant to have 5% match. Did that answer the question?
It's helpful. It's just, just kind of planning ahead. And my question is, what happens if you don't get a grant in the future? I mean, what is the reality of life?
That's a good question, and I think I will refer back to the 43-page document that I sent the board about a month ago, and that is a end of looking at, I certainly don't have a cost of blight for the Redevelopment Authority that I update on a yearly basis for no reason. For the last 5 years, we've continued to advocate to the City of Erie that we need to be reimbursed for the costs that we help the City of Erie with. Certainly the land bank,
Yes.
the Redevelopment Authority. So that is, as we go into the new year, that document that I provided is really my thoughts and ideas and a combination of everything that we look at as far as how we have to look at our benefit toward the City of Erie and how we need to work toward finding some kind of common ground on funding some of that and offsetting some of our operational expenses. So, the short the short answer to, is there a magic revenue stream out there that we can get? No. Can we roll out revolving loan funds? Sure, but we have to build that up. And right now, with $5 million tied up in Ironwork Square at a low interest rate, that's not really going to help us. So, certainly we need to try to identify some additional funds that we can get into a revolving loan program. And, really, April and I had talked, on our way down to Homes Within Reach and today even, we have 1.8 million in that project I had floated, probably about a month and a half ago. I think that's kind of where we need to look at loaning that money and focusing on housing development and using that as maybe short-term incremental financing toward a project at a higher rate, and then we get it paid back when the project becomes funded by somebody. I don't know, but loaning our money out at a low interest rate isn't going to help us in the long run, and leaving it in a project at a low interest rate isn't going to help us either. So, Yeah, I'm certainly well aware of the financial situation of the authority, always have been and always will be. And so it's certainly something, I mean, when we look back to 2017, the authority was at probably its lowest point ever. We had, not been awarded a lead hazard control program. We were essentially operating on $200,000 of CDBG funds. And so we don't want to get back there. And certainly, we were granted and given the ability to take that $15 million in ARPA funds, and I think we showcased what we can do with it when we were given the opportunity to take some money and make it a benefit for the city of Erie. And I think, for the board, the staff of the Redevelopment Authority, what we've been able to do with that money in the housing side of the city of Erie is just tremendous. I mean, we aren't a showcase of blight mitigation and land banking across the state because we sat on that money and didn't do anything with it. So I think it's a testament to the work that we do and the benefit that we provide to the city, and I hope that is what showcases and propels that plan and hopefully some money from the city in the future. So there's certainly more ideas and thoughts, but a lot of that will come with city cooperation and understanding. So I'll stop monologuing at this point because I don't have any water. Page 2.
Sure.
All right, so page 2, and I believe it goes into page 3, yeah, it does go into page 3, is the revenue side of the budget. And so I didn't hide any of the cells associated with funding that we're not going to have. I wanted the board to have a full, transparent view of what funding has been there, what funding we had in 2025, and what funding we look for in 2026. And really, to the point, you start to see some of it dwindling down. And so certainly the big heavyweight lift there is the lead hazard control program, $1.8 million in revenue coming into the authority. And really, again, not to go back, but when we look at that, we are now an 8-time grantee of the Office of Lead Hazard Control. That has been our mainstay since the early 2000s, and something that has continued to help, but also invested a tremendous amount of funding into the city of Erie. We just kind of goes down through, between Act 137, whole home repair, bringing in all those projects and funding. And I don't know, how many total projects this year, Holly, for 2026 did you predict? 132. So right now we're at 99. So yeah, a little bit higher, but I mean that's when I always say that's our widgets we produce is completed housing units and revitalized neighborhoods. So when you go down through there, blight mitigation, $600,000. That's we working with code enforcement planning office to identify some high need condemnation activities there. We also have a major environmental remediation and demolition project at 16th and Parade that we have to take on this year. So that'll be coming online there. East Bayfront Greenway Trail project. That park is well on its way. Unfortunately, the snowfall has slowed down a little bit of the finishing touches there. We'd anticipated that, but we were kind of hoping on a later start than last year as far as snowfall, but that didn't happen. New production, we still have $90,000 to go to our West Bayfront out of new production, so that's what that is. Pulling out $516,000 in ARPA admin funds. Working on down PA Lead Hazard Control Program. Of course, you'll see the administrative costs from the Erie Land Bank identified there. On to page 2, fair grants, healthy homes, accessory structures, and then the Erie County in-home child care, and then $50,000 from the Erie Community Foundation on accessory structures. On page 2, just to point out the 3 items that are not grant-based and really responsible for any kind of tracking, I guess you would say, our unrestricted funds, our interest income, our loan program income, and our housing authority lead hazard control program, which is administrative for lead testing of housing authority units. And so right now, we have that operating MOU with the housing authority to test 55 units in the John Horan apartment complex. And so I think we have 40-some to complete in 2026? 38, we'll have 38 to complete in 2026. So those are the three categories that aren't essentially tied to grant requirements of some kind.
Okay. You said 4101 interest income, right?
Yep, 4920 loan program.
4920.
Yep, and
And then the
then
housing authority,
Housing Authority, City of Erie.
admin, okay, got
Yep.
it.
So, but when you look at the Housing Authority, essentially, there is staff time associated with that. So it's billable hours. We charge the Housing Authority essentially a modest rate for lead testing because, it's a partnership agreement and, they work well with us on the Housing Choice Voucher recipients and we help them with their lead testing services, so. Any questions on that section?
And the revenues that are proposed are assured or they've applied for?
They're all short.
They're all short.
Everything that absolutely nothing on our revenue side is proposed. It's
Okay.
all under contract and allocated. So those are
Helpful.
funds that are either eligible for reimbursement or already sitting in our bank
Okay,
account.
all right, perfect.
So, yeah.
Good to know.
You're going to handle the rest? I was going to bring my water cup today. I forgot my water cup on my desk. All right, so I guess if there's no questions any more questions with the revenues, we'll move on to the expenditures. Certainly one of the big ones, and it's not really the big one, really, when we get into it. So payroll expenses, $906,767. So unless there's questions there, I'll breeze on through. I don't know how you want to, I can go down through. If there's ones you have questions, how do you guys want to, what's the board's preference?
Maybe wrap it up at the end of expenditures?
Yeah, I'm going to have a couple other things, and then I would like to go into, have another, session just to kind of rehash it. I mean, my point of my emails went from a budget of less than $1 million to a budget of $6 million, so, I mean, like, well, holy moly, we better pay attention. So I think that the board needs to ramp up our understanding about the budget process.
And that's why I tried to prelude at the beginning was to say the board had a budget of $900,000 in 2023 was not accurate. That was essentially, when you look back at all of the money and time we've invested in cleaning up the financial processes within the authority, it was because we had an operating budget of $3.2 million back then, but it wasn't
But
something.
that was the budget that was in my board packet for that meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, that was.
I apparently voted on it.
Yeah, that's what I inherited, and that's essentially where we have come and where we're going.
All right,
Not to use Gene's terms.
So I think
'cause
it's
he's not
fair
here.
to say that we should probably relax a little bit and, really, dig in. I mean, because and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I don't,
appreciate-
and again, I never try to understand why those budgets were what was being proposed to the board. Again, essentially, I inherited a lot of that, and so we're continuing to improve our processes. Oh, thank you, ma'am, I appreciate that. So, certainly, I have the 2023, and when you look at the financial statements, two point 2.8.
I'm just going through my records,
2.9
I keep everything, so.
was our budget, or was our profit and loss for 2023, so.
So would you say it's more transparent now?
Yes, absolutely. Far more transparent. Yes. Like I said, and to the point is, in April, we'll test, when she started, I said, I want to know how much we're spending in paper. And sure, we can go back and find out how much we're spending in paper, but that was really the task to go through and really fine tune our expenses, because you couldn't go back then and have everything detailed out. It was there, but it was rough. It was rough. So, but we go from financial audit every year with findings and recommendations and that to one that has no
All right.
findings, so.
We certainly appreciate the improvement and all the effort and so. So before we get kicked out, do we want to schedule our next meeting, or a study session? Because they're going to start flicking the lights at us, right?
true, yes.
Yeah, he will.
I don't mean to run the meeting, Mr. Chair. Forgive me for,
No, the side seats driving. All right, so obviously, Christmas will be here before we know it. Christmas will be here before we know it. I'll be available. I just have a feeling most of you won't. So when should we look to schedule a additional session?
Is this gonna be open to the public? Because if not, we don't necessarily have to do it during the meeting, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
What about the Monday following Christmas?
Sure.
That way we miss the holidays and all the extra.
Yeah, I guess, is this going to be a closed session or open session?
well, we're not voting, we're just, I don't think.
Right. So, does that mean it has to be?
Oh,
It'll have to be a public, it's a meeting of the board with a quorum, so, and it's not subject to executive
Yeah.
session. We can have a work session and
Okay.
advertise it. It's not.
so did Jeremy by chance give you his availability?
No.
Seems like he's got the toughest calendar of
Yeah.
all of us then. So instead of us figuring out, maybe Jeremy can give us 3 or 4 dates, times, because I think he's between his professional career and his family career. I'm a lot more flexible, so
Yeah.
I'll be, you know,
Yeah.
so I think that would be the proper thing, and then get back to us. And
We
I
want-
appreciate your consideration for Christmas, but I'm around, you know.
So, all right, so I can reach out to Jeremy and Christine and see what his
Sure.
availability is.
Yeah, and sooner, whatever, I mean.
All right. I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we want to keep going, or I know we're starting to turn the lights out on us, or should we adjourn?
I'm thinking
until
if we
then?
can pull everything into the next meeting.
Yeah.
And we can finalize it then.
Excellent. Then, is that okay with y'all?
Yeah,
All right.
it's will of the board.
All right, awesome. Then, in that case, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Bye.
All right, any opposed? All right, well, we will revisit this later this month.
Perfect, thank you.